All right. Um, Good evening. I would like to welcome you all to this special broadcast. And right now, it's a very cool evening in Pretoria, in South Africa, where I'm on a short retreat. With me on this broadcast, I have two wonderful friends and colleagues from different parts of the world that will be joining in this special broadcast this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are. I have with me Dr. Wale. He's from the Media City University of Salford, and it's got a PhD in media psychology. So with Wale today, we are going to have another person who is also a very great friend. He's Peter Oderinde, and then he's from the Center for African Studies at the University of Basel. So I'm going to be welcoming both of them here on this platform, and we hope to share our own experience and views on events and make comments on events in Nigeria in 2019, a kind of review of certain events, or I don't want to call them a poker event, but key events in 2019. You can join us through comments, and we'll take your comments and also hope to get some feedback from people, from you guys. So, guys, I'm going to ask. Of course, I've given you a kind of brief introduction, but I'm going to start. I think for now, I'm going to give the privilege to Peter to give us a kind of opening salvo on this, like on let's say, what's your view? Because this particular moment, this particular season, towards the end of the year, we've seen several people talking about miracles. A lot of people making comments online or predicting what will happen next year. So, and we have witnessed this all through the years, and 2019 is not an exception. We've seen a lot of people latching on the train this time. So, I want to take like a kind of comment from you on this view. What do you think, Peter? What do you think?
From different parts of the world. Greetings from Turin in Italy. I'm here on holiday but it's good to be here just to speak to you guys. I think we are witnessing something new, but not necessarily, because my own expertise is on Pentecostalism, so I would rather um, limit myself within the confines of Pentecostalism. Um, Pentecostalism has different characteristics, and prophecy is one of them. And that's why at the end of the year, you see a lot of pastors on the internet and their fans as well promoting this type of ideas. It's part of the characteristics of Pentecostalism. So it's not surprising to see pastors going online now to advertise prophetic ministrations during the end of the year. And also, not just prophecy, also, glossolalia, which we also call speaking in tongues as well.
Yeah.
These are also features of Pentecostalism, so it's not surprising to see this kind of things at this time of the year.
Okay. Yeah, it's not surprising. That's a very, of course, it's not surprising. But what can we attribute to? What should be a kind of? How do we address that particular issue? Can we tie it to specific social factors or elements, or why do we have series of prophets coming up with specific sayings, predictions about the year? Unlike in some countries around the globe, where you have a kind of economists, psychologists, and several other social scientists coming up to talk about maybe event that will happen, likely event that will happen the following year, and to assess, with expert opinion, to provide insights on some of the issues around in their country. But we see that these prophets, yeah, in quote, they seem to be privileged by the media They seem to even sometimes you have we've seen situation where mainstream media, legacy media, invite them to discuss. I mean, to talk about what will happen in the year. So, I mean, is it peculiar to Nigeria, or are there maybe socio-economic factors responsible, or are there like maybe political factors responsible for that? So I want to take your comment on that. Then Wale Oni can also come up to make some, especially on the angle of media, how media privilege some of these voices. So over to you, Peter.
I think it's a combination of factors. I think one, you have to consider our population. I think Nigeria is at the forefront of religion. When it comes to Pentecostalism, the number is huge when it comes to sub-Saharan Africa. And obviously, you know that we are almost 200 million people. And of course, this plays a huge role when it comes to prophecies, because this is the time people want to make restitutions, they want to change their lifestyle, and this is the time to also make money. This is the time where the church is filled up and they want to also do new things. So this is the time to also make money and contribute more. I mean, people just believe in, if it's just one time in a year that I have to go to church, you see all sorts of people. People who ordinarily wouldn't go to church would go to church at the turn of the new year just to make restitution. So there's a lot of factors that surround this. But I would like Dr. We need to
Okay.
also have a go at this
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah. Okay. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think that's a very good start from Mr. Oderinde. And if we want to chip something in from the media perspective, there is this saying that media, it's the mirror of the society. So there is no way we can actually take uh, media and how they give prominence to some of these predictions and prophecies. There's no way we can take that away from them, because like governance, media is also part and parcel of our society, and whatever is happening within the society will be what they will actually privilege. That's what they will hear, that's what they will give space to in their columns and things like that. So if we understand our polity, our society to be very religious, should also, understand that media will tend towards, you being religious too. Imagine when you have our editors, and then assistant editors, sub editors, and all manners of roles within media institutions, being part and parcel of influential religious body. So there is no way you can stop them from using their influence within the media sphere to hear or give space to some of these things. Who wouldn't want to press his general overseer? Who wouldn't want to press his bishop? It's just like that. So when your bishops that you worship, or your general overseer, or your daddy Gio and whatever is doing something, even your ordinary birthday, you expect that within the nature of the kind of media system that we run, some of their activities, whether it is even private or public, will find their way into the media system, and of course to be pressed. So for me, it's just a reflection of the society that we find ourselves in, and we should not expect anything less in that regard.
Yeah. So yeah, well, that is it. In order to, I mean, but I also look at it from maybe another dimension, because while I appreciate some of the things that you guys have said, there are things that I would
Yeah.
not want to repeat, because you all, I mean, both of you capture the essence of what I perceive to be, I mean, responsible for some of these actions. But in a
Yeah.
way, I see a kind of crisis, a kind of crisis of hope, a kind of hopelessness among the people. The fact that they have something to look up to at the end of the year, at the end of the month. You see, like VG, every Friday VG. You see events in most of these Pentecostal churches. where people come together to listen to their GO, their pastors prophesy about their life in the coming week. Then at the end of the month, you see them various churches organizing like end of the month camp or where people gather together to also, and most of what they pray about, most of what they talk about, there are things that are social issues, things that maybe like, okay, they want to have good health care, they want to have good health, they want to have jobs, things that society or the state should be able to provide. We've seen this whereby some of these churches have turned into alternative state where
Mm-hmm.
where they like they are the people look up to them for hope for everything, and then that also gives a kind of opportunity for some elements to use to take advantage of them by maybe asking them to donate money, one form of money or the other, tithe or offering, in anticipation of getting a double portion of that money in the coming maybe in the coming week or thereabout. So it's been a very difficult situation. But I want to. Are there any positive roles? Because I don't want us to just be talking about this thing. So I'm asking
Yeah.
Peter now that do you see any positive roles or are there any utilitarian, let me say, values in some of these predictions, or should we look at it in a more critical way? Maybe it's positive or negative, or what do you think are the implications of some of these dependency, where people depend on sweet words, prophecies from their various religious leaders? Yeah. So Peter.
Thank you very much. I think the questions are two-pronged. You first, on the one hand, you asked if there's any benefits as regarding this type of religiosity,
Yes.
and then on the other hand, you mentioned what was the second one? If
No, I
I'm
said
sure.
the impact. What could be the impact of the whole thing, the whole arrangement on
Well, okay,
let's say on the populace as a whole? Are there any impacts, maybe positive or negative? Are there any utilitarian values in all this?
okay.
Yeah.
Well, to start with, I think you've encapsulated those problems in your question, because the people have already been deprived. Don't forget that these things you're talking about are all patterns of Pentecostalism,
Okay.
because when Pentecostalism actually rose in Nigeria, it was when the indigenous churches, or the African indigenous churches, which are the Baptist and Anglican churches, are very docile, and there was a lot of poverty in the land. There was military rule, and these churches all just sprang up because they were more in touch with the people.
Okay.
They were more in touch with the poor, and they would rather pray about actual
Okay.
problems. They will all actually want to pray about problems and how to solve them. So people felt gravitated towards this movement more than the older
Okay.
churches. So these churches now kind of fill the gaps or the vacuum that the government have filled, to provide, for instance, social amenities to people. For instance, all these churches are now beginning to have hospitals. They are beginning to have
Yes.
universities. That, they are becoming even much more mega. So, in some sense, we could say that these churches have played a lot of social economic role in the lives of their adherents. And not to even mention religious remittance, if you want to call it,
Yes.
that these people also derive from going to church. Because sometimes, I'll give you an instance. I speak to my mom over the phone, and sometimes she prays for me. In her mind, sometimes, when I give her good news about what I'm doing, she automatically associate our prayers to that. So it provides some sense of relief.
Yeah.
And to your other questions, I think it provides hope,
Okay.
because for some people, they don't want to be dealt with twice in this life.
Okay.
They prefer to suffer in this world and then to go to a heavenly place where they can seek solace. So it's a combination of a win-win situation for the adherents of Pentecostal churches, basically.
Okay. So okay. What do you have to say about that, Doctor Lee?
I think that's just about a way to look at it academically. Our religious understanding and potentials should also be looked, back into our, history as a people, in Nigeria. You will agree with me that if you look at it from the history of uh, of our people and how we have been so, deeply religious. I want to believe it's also a carryover of that, kind of innate adherence. Not necessarily, that's how I feel, a reason for the increase or the proliferation of Protestant churches, rather than Orthodox. I want to believe we are deeply religious as a people, and then we always tend to take our problems right from our background to this esoteric realm, where we can solve them rather than being practical with them. These are some of the things we need to address, ourselves as a people, and we have to find, a way to get out of this, uh, bubble box and live the modern era. We as a people, I wouldn't want to limit it to Nigerian. I would want to say it's more like an African thing. We are very, very passionate about religion. I wouldn't say there is something anything bad in that. But we have seen some other societies where they have been able to channel, their energy within their religious
Doctor, if I may butt in quickly, are you saying that we are over celebrating our religiosity or spirituality, if you want to put it that way? Are we over celebrating our Christian life, if you want to put it that way?
uh, if it is about the word, I have a problem with the word celebration there. You know, I would say we overhype our religiosity. It is not the celebration per se. There is nothing. I don't have anything, against being religious. Uh, I'm also, I'm not an atheist, so to say. I worship. I'm a Christian and I identify with Christianity. But I, I put my belief system within a rational space where I can always, be open and critique whatever, issue or religious, right that goes in my,
I mean,
in my.
why I said that was because you said we should rather face our problems head on than rather, I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
speak this.
what I was trying to say is we shouldn't be too emphatic about life and then be pragmatic about it. The way Asians are pragmatic about their religion, the way Europeans are pragmatic about their religion, we should also be pragmatic about ours. We shouldn't take our problems,
Yeah. Okay. But sorry, guys, I think in another way, are these habits or behaviors uh, restricted to only Christians in Nigeria, or maybe we could have some elements of some of these things in other. I don't know if we have sorry, I don't know if we have elements of some of these behaviors in other religions like in Islam or among those Muslims in Nigeria too. So, but I think I know it's prevalent among the Christians, but do we have like maybe examples, or do we have Muslims also replicating some of this behavior? Or is it only a kind of Pentecostal? Because I don't want us to see it as a Pentecostal thing, because some other non-Pentecostal, even denominations, even among the some Orthodox, some faction of Orthodox, you see them like when you say adoration ministries among the Catholics in Nigeria, for instance, with Reverend Baka and some other things like that. Some other, people, peers, people of his peers. So, is this restricted only to Pentecostal Christians? That's, I mean, let's just, what do you think? Is it? Okay, 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 okay. Yeah. But you see, they also have a kind of fight. They pray 5 times a day, so maybe it might be a little bit awkward to. Okay, okay, Okay. Okay. So, so what do you want to say to that, Peter? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes.
It's another thing to become multiple allergies,
Okay.
whereby you have it, it becomes your right to go to Jerusalem or Mecca every year. I mean, people could go to Hajj and they could be sponsored, but it is now becoming birthright that all these people, some of these people have gone to Hajj five, four times,
Yes.
so, and the state continues to pay every year into Saudi and Israel sports. I think we have to also look at it from the dimensions of their bosses as well, which are the European powers as well. I think they are also kind of culpable in these relations as well, because they are up there and then we are paying money every year to go to all these countries to
Yeah.
do our religious rights. So the I don't want to I put all the blames on the citizens as well. I think the leadership should own up to their responsibility to be able to limit their budget and to say, hey, we are not doing this anymore, and then we can get back to business. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah. But sorry, I think let's just take a little break away from that from the religious exercises and this all these things that rituals or whatever that we do, and to look at some other things. I mean, some of the events in the year. So a typical.
Before we move, wait,
Okay.
hold on. Before we, maybe we can quickly trash this out. I
All
really
right.
want to. I want to ask whether what they do, at every, at the point of you entering the new year, actually prophecy or predictions. What exactly,
I think it's guesswork. I don't want to call it prediction because prediction
Uh, uh,
prediction presupposes certain. It's more of a kind of expert thing that you have a kind of you must have data, you must have a kind of foreknowledge for you to make a kind of prediction based on what you have learned before. What I mean, based on your
don't you
understanding and knowledge
uh,
based.
don't you think that is what they
No,
do by looking at the
I think I
signs?
think it's what is called a intelligence guess. Prediction is coming
Mm-hmm.
from a place of expert opinion. For instance, when you see NIMET predicting the weather, for instance, NIMET predicting the weather, and then you see
Mm-hmm.
them almost accurately because they have to take into consideration precipitation data and several other. It's a lot of things go into it.
When,
But you
yeah.
see, why I say it's a kind of intelligent guess or educated guess, or even let me not use the word educated guess. Sometimes it might even be outright guess. where people just based on their hunch or okay that if it has happened in the past, then it must and based on certain things, then it must happen this certain way. A typical example is somebody telling you like during the last election, saying that after listening to various grievances, saying oh there will be bloodshed during the election, but a winner will emerge, but then they run. I mean, they kind of looking at the temperature of the people. Or, then this element predicted that the other candidate will win. You're like, okay, but you now quickly added a kind of caveat that, but he will not be allowed to assume office, meaning that now either way it's kind of win-win situation. Now that he predicted wrongly, so when he was called out, he simply said, "But I told you he will not be sworn in. That means he will be rigged." So and who is to prove that? I mean, he's predicted wrongly or whatever. So in a way, I see it as kind of guess based on not really informed knowledge. Really, not really informed knowledge. I don't want to like. Make it out to be what it is not. It's for me, I may be wrong, but for me, I think it's from a position of using past, like for instance, sorry, let me just give this before I allow you. I mean, I open the floor so I will not dominate the conversation. A situation, I mean, when you see I threw a challenge to somebody. I said, okay, most of you say, okay, your daddy Gio, he has the power of prediction, power of prophecy, and I said, okay, myself, I'm not a Christian. Now imagine myself going into your camp someday, dressed like a pastor with a microphone in my hand, in your Holy Ghost convention where you have like 2 million people in attendance, and then I say something like, okay, there's somebody here who has been barren for some time, and you're going to have a child before the end of next year. Then what the odds are in my favor because out of 2 million people, somebody must be barren there, and out of those 2 million people, somebody must have a child in 9 months' time by next year. So to me, it's a kind of calculated guess. Okay, let me pause here now, and since you raised this issue, maybe you might have a kind of opinion about that. Okay, all right. What do you say?
I think Oderinde should be the expert and
Okay,
lead
yeah,
us.
yeah,
Give us
yeah.
give us,
Uh,
give us
I,
what
I'll, I'll try my best. Just
the
Okay,
definition. Define prophecy for us at least from the
well, I mean, it's just like you said, Peter. You know, you use the word power
okay,
because prophecy is a way of attributing some sort of respect
okay,
or power to
okay,
yourself. When you are able to predict things that will come or that will happen in the future, then you get more popularity. And it has been happened not just in Nigeria, through the times in the Bible, with all the prophets, you know, they have been blessed with prophetic powers, you know, like all the prophets in Bible have all of this power. So these leaders recognizes this power as well, and they try to use it as much as they can. Like I said in the beginning, that prophecy is one of the characteristics of being a Pentecostal. It doesn't matter that you have that gift, but it's one of the gifts that is very important for the Pentecostal. The ability to see things that would happen in the near future is just brings a lot of popularity, and it brings a lot of respect as well.
okay. But
But just like a wrong idea
right?
about that.
Yeah, you say they do see into the future, right?
Yes,
Um,
they claim to see into the
mm,
future. Really, that should be. I mean, in my own way, I think I'm more comfortable with that because why I said that they claim is that we've seen several times where they've made some of these predictions without any real outcome. Because somebody telling you that there will be
that note.
uh,
They don't own up to it to say, "Oh yeah, I was very wrong." You know, they don't come, but they don't
yeah,
revisit the ones that predicted or prophesied that failed. They only talk about the ones that maybe have come to pass. And sometimes you have to look at it from the angle. Sometimes they do these things for political gains as well. Like I said, for popularity and for also political gains. So they have to consider a whole lot of things that are happening in the country as at that time to be able to make predictions for the next year. And these are the things that will make people to come to their churches if these things happen.
yeah. I think it's also, yeah, you're right. I think it's also a kind of competition because in the coming let me days, yeah, let me not say weeks because we're already going towards the end of the year. We'll start seeing a kind of competition of whose prophecy will come to pass and who has more prophetic gift and who has more, let me say, ability to gamble events where you just say certain things. And some of these events are not really extraordinary in the recent of the world. Somebody saying that there will be accident next year, there will be some people will not have money next year, some people will have money next year, some people will have jobs. These are mere sayings. These are things that anybody could come up with. But to tie to what Oderinde said the other time about hope, how people look when there is no hope, people just look forward to something that will give them hope, solace. Yeah, that's the exact word that he used. So the ability for them to be able to I mean, for this element, for these spiritual leaders to I mean to key into that and then to play that role, that support role. In a country where for instance, we don't have the kind of people don't go to psychologists, clinical psychologists, anytime they are depressed or have issues with their spouses, where there are no libraries, in fact, limited social gathering, limited places where people could go out to relax. So the only place that people can
Yeah.
congregate to vent off their problem is a kind of that spiritual space that they've carved out for
Yeah.
themselves. Where that's why you have them doing music nights. They have to play the music role. They do husband and wife night. The pastor is the psychologist. Is the one that will even in some cases they even play the role of business advisor, organizing business seminars, even life coach, being life
Yeah.
coaches and all those. So
Yeah.
they fill some of these roles.
Yeah.
Some of these roles they fill some of these roles. But there is no problem in that if some of them are even trained to handle some of these extra roles. Like in the Catholic Church, for instance, some of the priests are educated, maybe psychologists or thereabouts, so they can provide certain advice. But you see, it's not by somebody who was a roadside mechanic or who was a I don't mean to demean anybody's job anyway, but I'm just saying this. In the case of Nigeria, for instance, somebody who is just like somebody that's
Who emerged from
yeah, emerged from a
with no
no pedigree,
yeah.
nothing to write home about, and the person is now prescribing serious issues, even advising on career choices. You see, by young men and women go to church to all these prophets for the prophet to tell them about the kind of course they choose.
Sorry, just to butt in
Yeah.
there. I think I just want to model all of these characteristics into
Okay.
one because I have mega churches on one hand and non-mega churches on the other
Okay.
hand. With the mega churches, you have intellectuals, educated individuals who are capable in any sphere of industries, name
Okay.
it. But on the other hand, on the non-mega, you see all these random pastors who just spring up from nowhere and then they just co-opt people from the street, and I mean, so you find that
Yeah.
pattern. But don't let us think that you don't have people who are extremely intelligent, who are capable of doing wonderful things in these churches. There are some of them
Yeah,
are quite
yeah,
smart.
they are quite smart, quite right. But you see, there is when you say charlatanism, when you call people charlatan, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the now tendency for people, especially in our own space, in Nigeria, is to assume that maybe somebody who is not well read, who has not gone to school or something. But you see, charlatanism extends beyond that. A situation by somebody is a graduate, for instance, I don't want to mention name now because we are on a live broadcast, but situation by some people are well, maybe they are, let's say, scientists, they have PhD in mathematics or what have you, or even some might even be professors. You understand? But somebody who read mathematics that is talking about, let's say, the person is now talking about advising people on psychological issues or advising people on security, which is well outside of his or her sphere of influence. But people now transfer the authority of his mathematics field to mean that since he has PhDs, since he's a professor, then he must know everything. So that way they respect him. So, but in that case, he is a more educated version of the charlatan who emerged from nowhere. The ability, his own difference is that he can speak good English and might be able to express himself very well clearly. But that does not
There's
still extricate
a
him.
immunity that covers them.
Yeah, a name, okay, a particular time that I'm looking for.
There's
But I
special
think,
immunity.
okay, I think the umbrella name would be charlatan in short. That's just it. So I call it pretenders to all this to knowledge, because and isn't even the media, and I think Wale Oni should be able to come in here. The media also is
Yeah,
not helping. The way
yeah,
media shape some of these people as a because they will just go and meet them. Can you please give us opinion on Boko Haram?
yeah.
Just because. So what can you say about that? The role of the media in
Yes,
this thing.
yes. It's a very fascinating phenomenon, and it has you can trace back its historical roots to to the era of television. Not
Okay.
necessarily when radio was a number of them were actually used radio to do some early publicity and whatever. But
Okay.
the whole idea emerged and skyrocketed in the era of TV, and then when TV became 24/7,
Yeah.
uh, it went
Yeah, I
permit
think what really happened there, just to butt in,
yeah.
was that there was a broadcasting license that was being offered. I think it was around era of Babangida. I'm not sure when.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and then all of a sudden we have a number of all these churches coming on TV to perform their miracles. And at
Exactly.
some point, if you could recollect, maybe there was a controversy on miracles that have been aired on
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
Like,
I think I should chip in there. Sorry. There.
oh,
Sorry, Peter. To whatever you
yeah,
see that miracle, I think it's something that we should mention here. It was actually a miracle that was a kind of somebody who claimed to have power to heal. And then I think there was this blind man who was said to have not had his sight from birth. And all of a sudden, there was a miracle. The miracle was performed. He could see. Then, when the pastor now to demonstrate, he took his luck too far by trying to demonstrate or to impress people that actually the miracle took place. Brought out an handkerchief and then waved the handkerchief in front of the so-called blind man who has been healed. And he said, "Okay, what color is this?" And then the person mentioned the color. That was what made NCC at that particular time to come hard on them, because it became it
Yeah.
generated serious noise that, okay, so somebody who has not seen was able to recognize specific color. So it was so embarrassing. That was why, and it wasn't as if a government banned miracle. What they simply
No, no,
did was that any miracle you want to show must be independently verifiable. That was the clause. And because some of them cannot do that, so they have to go and start their own private satellite television stations now,
yeah.
where they can do
That they,
whatever they like.
they're using their own their political connection to get the license.
Yeah, for satellite
So
broadcast, so that they can
that
still and
yeah,
also that. So I think away from this because of time, away from this religious thing, I
yeah,
want us to have a kind of general discussion around the political nature of Nigeria in the past few. I mean, in 2019, let's just review that. Starting from the last event, the recent one, the release of Showore, and I want to ask, and I think this is addressed to both of you, like, what is really wrong? I mean, our leaders not accountable to the people, because when you look at it from what I can observe, for instance, when this guy was arrested, let's even forget about the circumstances surrounding, even whether the legitimacy or otherwise of his action for calling for a revolution. Let us even leave that aside. But there were a series of court pronouncements granting this guy bail, but it was not obeyed. A lot of prominent Nigerians came online to plead, even say a lot of things to the government. Nothing was done. They were even mocked. The media aides to the president, they started mocking people, attacking people personally, and thereabout. But all of a sudden, the United States came on board, and then the envoy went to meet with the president, who has never uttered a statement to Nigeria directly on this issue ever since. And within 24 hours, he was released. And the same Attorney General of the Federation, who told Nigerians that that his release, the release of this particular person, Showore, wasn't in his hand, or he has no jurisdiction over that case. But he was able to make that pronouncement, and then he got the guy the guy released. So the question now is this: are Nigerian leaders responsible? Do they see themselves as responsible to the people? Like, why should they listen to foreign powers? Seem to be more influential. They seem to be more influenced like that than. I think I will start with Wale Oni, then Oderinde can comment on that. So, Dr. Oni, can we have your opinion on that?
Yes, you want to. I want to believe the power influence
Okay.
is outside than within.
Okay.
If you follow the events in Nigeria, not necessarily now, before. So I would like to. I want to submit that, if not the fact that Jure, has a kind of a link and
Okay.
a strong link, for that matter, uh, outside the country. I want to believe that the DSS or the SSS, which is holding, and then nothing will be done, with regards to that. The rule of law in Nigeria is just another caveat. There is nothing, so peculiar, so special about the rule of law in Nigeria. In Nigeria, the executive is the Lord. For some of us who have been, one way or the other, moved very close to the corridor of power, maybe at the state level, not at the federal level, can at least attest to some of this, very strong influence, coming from the executive arm of the Nigerian government, and with the kind of political party that we practice, where uh, somebody who emerged as a governor is seen as the all in all and alpha and omega, within the system. You cannot, help that kind of influence, coming into play. I want to believe, the everybody in Nigeria will subscribe to that uh, uh, particular opinion that the coming or the stepping in of the US, in Showore's case, actually moved the hands of the Nigerian government to release him eventually, and that's about that, and it's a shameful thing, to think about it. They have gotten different occasions, different opportunity to use that particular episode to rewrite the history, and of course, clean their stable about the perception of everybody, perception of Nigerians, perception of the foreign bodies and whatever, and to how they handle rule of law. But over and over again, when you fall into the bad book of the federal government, when you
Okay.
fall into the bad book, you know, especially the presidency in Nigeria, rule of law is not something they always want to obey. Look, for instance, look at the issue of Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he was when he was governor of Lagos State, and during the state creation, I mean local government creation,
Yeah.
and it's Obasanjo wouldn't budge, despite the fact that there are several court cases and then if constitutional provision that a governor has the capacity to do this thing, but yet he wielded all the big stick to actually frustrate that kind of government at that particular time. It's nothing to. It's just about the same thing. Right now, it only happened to a person, an individual who is not holding a public office.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think they have a plan for all of us. It's not just one person. If you think about the social media bill
Yeah.
and the eight speech bill, all of this is a signal to say that the civil space is shrinking in Nigeria,
Okay.
and we really are in a serious times in Nigeria at the moment. And I'm happy, first of all, that Sure is out now, and I'm just really, really concerned and worried about what our legislators, the type of bills that the legislators are actually putting into the legislature. I mean, they want to hang someone for hate speech bill by death sentence or life sentence.
Yeah.
Scary. These are scary times, and like Dr. Oni said, they don't have a regard for human rights in Nigeria. If you're a commoner, you're simply on your own. And if we think, oh yes, it has only happened to Omoyede Sowore, it cannot happen to anyone. We are just completely
Oh yes.
in another
They do they do it to themselves. The elites, they are empowered, they are not more empowered, they do it within their own circle. How much more to people who haven't, had any sort of, power, people like you, people like you and I. So, and it's just a way, when they do that kind of thing, they send a very subtle message instead that you don't mess, you don't want to mess around with the government, you don't want to mess around with the presidency or with the governor. If you do, this is the kind of predicament that you all you. It's a kind of subtle message, and with that, it limits how people you know participate in politics. It limits how people understand politics. It limits how people contribute, towards activism. You remember back in the days when we go to university and maybe at the point of going to university at every point in time, maybe at the semester, they will be singing it to your to your ears back home. You remember the songs of who you are, even when you are going to
Yeah.
participate in any protest in university. Make sure you don't stand in the front. Make sure you don't stand at the back. Say something. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say you shouldn't try to follow your friends, but try to be and be pragmatic and be
Yeah.
diplomatic in the way. So no, nobody should leave home, with that kind of message.
Yeah.
The father should be able to come into the ears of their sons and say, look here, you don't take well, if you are oppressed, this you should have your voice. If somebody say this, you should be able to find a way to legitimately channel your but we are brought up with that kind of orientation, and that comes from the background of our parents
but that,
witness.
that has changed now, Dr. Oni, in the sense that I mean, they would say the youth are the future of Nigeria, actually, but it is not actually true. I really want to commend our youth in terms of the entertainment industry, but I think from the realities of I think enjoying all these attention in the industry is shining the light of Nigeria and Africa at large, but if you think about the rhetorics that are being displayed out there, I'm also very worried for our youths as well. I'm not saying they should not be creative, but I also worry about the kind of content they also put out there. Because while I was growing up, it's just completely different. Our youths are more creative now, but they are not
They are not.
intellectually
They are not.
engaged. They
They
are
are
not.
not.
They are not engaging. They are not engaging.
No, they are
And
not.
that's
They are not. They are not politically